Hey guys, today is Friday, March 30th, 2012. Welcome to the stockoptionassassin.com's weekly market wrap. And first I want to look at the SPY, and then we'll get into our Priceline trade from last week that we are still in, and a potential another setup for early next week. And I'm looking at the daily chart right now. And first let's go back. Let's go ahead and look at a monthly chart, since this is the end of the month, and you can see that we did kind of close above this previous high from last May, which was 137.20. We really kind of struggled along this area, but we did manage to push higher, and a lot of that had to do with the dollar getting pushed lower. And Bernanke came out and was talking about QE3s on the table, so the dollar went lower, market kind of went higher. I still think we're kind of struggling here, but it is possible that we get enough juiced up to the 144 level on the SPY, possibly next week. It's really tough to say. I'm a little bearish on the dollar right now, so if the dollar does sort of fall a little bit further, even though we're at some key support, and we'll go over the dollar chart in just a minute, but regardless, your next real resistance level is this 144, 144.45 level. Maybe you get up there in the next week or so. Would not be surprised if we pull back first, though. And it really depends, like I said, on the dollar. And this week was interesting. Let's switch to a weekly chart real quick. This week was interesting because last week you ended with kind of this spinning top indecisive candle, and this week you're basically ending with the same thing. So really a lot of selling pressure up in this area. Not to say that you can't get a little bit higher, but I still think that a little bit of a bigger correction is due. Maybe we get it mid-April going into May. That would sort of coincide with that sell in May and go away type period. But the volume's been continues to be super light, which kind of says that the hedge funds really aren't participating in the rally. Not to say that they aren't already in it, but you are kind of seeing some further signs of sort of a stalling out here. And if I go to the daily chart real quick, I just want to point this out, and this is probably jumping the gun on this one, but I'll go ahead and put it out there. In the last couple of weeks, you kind of had this mini head and shoulders formation. That's not confirmed yet, but it's sort of a potential here. And today you're kind of back up here. So this would be negated if we get a close above the high, the head, even though this is kind of a tight head and shoulders. If for some reason, let's say we do break down, and you end up with a kind of a break from this neckline, just right in this area, what I would look for is a move. Draw this in here. You take the distance from the head to the neckline. If we simply duplicate this and bring this over to the breakdown level, this would get us right about to the 50 moving average, and that would be the minimum target of a head and shoulders. Now, if we get to the 50, I would expect a strong bounce back. So this might be, if people are talking about buying the dip and all that, this may be a good area. If you do get in here, I would definitely be a buyer at the 50 moving average on the SPY. But again, this is a little early, a little premature to predict that this pattern will play out. However, I am keeping it on the radar as something, as a potential. If we do break down here, and let's say next week we kind of chop around, we eventually get down here. If this takes a couple weeks to play out, and then we get back up in here towards the end of April, and sell in May kicks in, then that might be a good place to get short. So these are just some levels I'm getting on. Now, if next week, like I said, we move up into this 144 level, this pattern's negated, and we would look for a pullback to the 20 as more of a buying opportunity. So let's look at the dollar real quick. Kind of have this trend line in here. You kind of have this, this sort of gap lower here. It's hard to really draw that as a definite trend line. You do get a lot of gaps in the UUP, but what I'm looking at is sort of this trend line up here that we're kind of following, which coincides with the 200-day moving average here, which we did kind of find a little support at. I still think that the dollar this is a very kind of make or break spot for the dollar. It's either going to go lower here, or it's going to go higher. Any more comments from the Fed that they're going to do QE3, this thing will go lower. Assets, the SPY, the market will go higher. However, if the dollar does find support here and does one of these numbers, where we found support at the 200, rallied back up, which we did, technically we made a new high. So, right now you can kind of look at, a channel of some sort, where we're at the bottom of the channel. We came down, made a new low, made a new high, and now we're at a higher low. So the question is, are we going to rebound from the 200 up and make a newer high, a higher high, or is this going to be some sort of chop fest, which it kind of is already, but you get the point here. So if we do rally up, if this is a higher low and this is the low, and next week this thing rallies up, the market will pull back. So those are my thoughts on the dollar and the SPY. Let's take a look at Priceline. I talked about Priceline in last week's video. For those who didn't get to see that, go back and check last week's. And I talked about looking at a bear call spread, which I actually ended up putting on Monday. We had this huge kind of rally in there. Because it rallied so much, I think last week I was talking about the 740, 750, but because we got this huge rally, I went ahead and sold out the 750, 760, and I think I got around 285 for it. And right now that's trading for like 2.25, somewhere in that range. So nicely in the money on that. This thing could very well kind of rally up a little bit higher, but I have a $14 range until we get to 750. So again, I sold the April 750, 760 bear call spread. That's when you sell the 750, buy the 760. It's a $10 spread, which is why I received a $2.85 credit on that. So basically, in the next 2 weeks, I'm thinking that Priceline has limited upside. Even if we get a test up to this 750 or even retest of these highs, I think we're going to have a little bit of a struggle. So time is on my side on this one. So another play I'm looking at, which is very similar setup, is CRM. Although CRM has been kind of pulling back and has sort of been consolidating in here. Not the best bullish consolidation, but yet it is consolidating above the 20. So when you zoom out a little bit, you can see that CRM has some serious resistance around the 160 level. So what I was actually looking for this week, and we didn't get it, was a move up to retest 160. If we can get 160, depending on how long this takes, if this, there's 20 some odd days before expiration. If we can get up to 160 early next week, I would look at possibly the April 165, 170 bear call spread. However, if it takes a little bit longer, I might go out to May. So, that's really my choice right now. But I kind of want to see how next week opens, because if we get the dollar tanks and this thing starts to rally, and we get some early strength in the week, then maybe we go out to 165, 170. So I just want to kind of point that out there. Another one that I'm slightly bearish on is Kraft, symbol KFT. I actually took a small put position in this today, and I think this thing was up over 1%. And basically, you're kind of getting this slow downtrend. The 20 is crossed under the 50, and these are starting to curl down. And basically, the next real support is going to be, you kind of have this potential pivot here around 37.5. But if the market really gets any acceleration to the downside, this thing might just go down to the 200-day moving average. So I actually bought May puts on that, and I think I went slightly in the money. I have to check, but. So that's all I got for this week. If you guys have any questions, let me know, and we'll talk to you guys later.